What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Manborg. I recently watched and reviewed Frankie Frico on the channel, and that was my introduction to Steven Kostanski and Astron 6. Like I said, you know, after watching that movie, I learned about, Astron 6 and Psycho Gorman and some of these other films that were put out by the production company. And, I went down the rabbit hole and I was like, okay, I like this Frankie Frico movie. I think this Astron 6 seems like a cool production company. Let me check out some of their other stuff. I don't think this one was actually technically put out by Astron 6, but Steven Kostanski is associated with Astron 6, so I mean that's why I'm mentioning it. Like later on he's like affiliated with them, but I think this was just his own thing, like when he was early on in his career, kind of starting out. But yeah, like that Frankie Frico movie kind of put me on to all these different movies. Like I said, the Astron 6 stuff, but a lot of, just Steven Kostanski's other stuff. And I immediately, well, first I went to Google, but then I went on Tubi and I was like, what other Steven Kostanski movies, what other Astron 6 movies are on Tubi? And, I found, actually there was like 3 that I found that I added to my list, and, I liked the vibe of Frankie Frico, so I was like, I'm definitely going to like some of these other ones. And I was definitely right. So yeah, I checked out Manborg, and like I said, it's put out by Steven Kostanski, and I thought Frankie Frico was cool, but like this was really cool too. This was the bomb. It was the same vibe. It was like a crazy horror, sci-fi, B movie with some good comedy in there, like crazy monsters and creatures. It was nuts. Like, this movie was crazy, and yeah, it was really interesting too, because like it's like this one was crazy low budget, and it was just like interesting to watch what Steven Kostanski and the rest of his crew, what they were able to do with like very little money and very little resources, and they made it happen. Because I thought I just hit a chord in my ground. I thought this was a really cool movie. So yeah, I'm kind of rambling here, but let me give you all a plot summary. So the movie starts out, and humans are at war with these like vampire forces, and the vampire forces are led by Count Dracula. And there's this one human who gets killed in the line of duty, and he's brought back as a cyborg called Manborg. And at first he's kind of like discombobulated. He doesn't really know what the heck is going on, and he meets up with these other resistance fighters. At first, they don't know what to think about him. They don't trust him, but they all eventually form an alliance. And for the rest of the movie, they're just trying to survive, because they're being pursued by all these adversaries, because they're kind of like defectors, like they're humans, like actually standing up for themselves against these, vampire overlords. So it's like they have to like constantly fight for survival, because the vampires, they don't like defectors. So yeah, they're trying to fight for survival, and ultimately this little group of characters, they're trying to defeat the vampire forces and ultimately defeat Count Dracula, because he's a big meanie. He's an evil individual. So they gotta save the world. So to do that, they gotta defeat the vampire forces and Count Dracula. So that is the basic plot summary. And it's important to note too, this is set in the future. It's all like futuristic. So you got like the horror stuff with all the vampires, and they don't really look like vampires though. They kind of look like zombies, except Count Dracula does look like a vampire. But yeah, it's like you have like the horror element, but like it's like the future all the like the city. Like the future city looks It's almost like some like Batman Beyond or like some cyberpunk. It's like this super futuristic city, but it's like kind of grimy, but it's at the same time upscale. I don't know if that is a good description, but yeah, this is set in the future as well. So you got a lot going on. I hope I'm not losing people here. They're like, what the F, is this a real movie? This sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but it's cool. I like crazy stuff like this, so maybe I'm biased, but I'm telling you, it's a good movie. It's a cool movie. So just, don't judge it yet. You gotta watch it. It's only like an hour and 3 minutes, so not a big time commitment. Definitely check it out. But now that I gave you all the plot summary, I want to talk about just a little bit of the behind the scenes. So, like I said 50,000 times, this was directed by Steven Kostanski. So something to note about this before I mention the other stuff that I'm going to mention. The whole movie is pretty much green screen backdrops. Like the whole movie looks like a video game. All the futuristic settings and pretty much everything. Every location, every backdrop is, green screen. And Steven Kostanski, he filmed the movie. Like, I don't know about the whole movie, but most of the movie he just filmed in his parents' garage with the green screen backdrops. It says on the internet that this was made for $1,000. I feel like that's unlikely, maybe, but well, I mean, if I don't know, if they just did all the post production themselves, I guess like I can see that, because part of the Wikipedia said that they made the costumes out of garbage, and they would like fall apart, and they would just glue them together, and they would make the set pieces with like trash that they found in dumpsters. So maybe if they were doing all that and they did the post-production themselves and it was just like a lot of buddies, maybe they did make this for $1,000. But I think it's unlikely that they made it for $1,000. I feel like that number is incorrect. Maybe 5,000 or 10,000, but 1,000 seems, if this movie was made for 1,000, that is like an insane achievement, because like it's a good movie. Yeah, like, when you watch it, yeah, it's gonna seem super low budget. The whole green screen backdrop might deter people, even though a lot of the makeup is really good. Some of the makeup is not as good. Like there's this one guy called the Baron, and it just looks like he's wearing a mask, like a good mask, but it looks like he's just kind of wearing a mask. But the movie doesn't really take itself too seriously, so like that stuff, it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't like deter. It doesn't. Not deter. It doesn't. It doesn't take away from my experience really. Like, cause it's that type of movie where it's just like everything about it is insane, and a lot of the like comedy is supposed to be kind of cheesy, where it's like people's voices are dubbed and stuff is like intentionally really goofy and silly, and some of the comedy is like super dumb. Like the fact that the production value might not look the best at times, it kind of fits the tone, if that makes sense. So yeah, I just wanted to start out the video talking about a little bit of the making of the movie, behind the scenes, so people know kind of what type of movie I'm talking about. But yeah, like I said, it didn't take away from my experience. I thought it was pretty good. So like I said, there's a lot of good humor in this, a lot of funny moments. I'm gonna go over some standouts. So early on, like Manborg, before he became Manborg, when he was just a human, you see him like in the war, and he's just calling other soldiers bro, and he's like, hey bro, I mean sir. I thought that was really funny. Like that was like a couple minutes into the movie, and I was like, okay, this is already kind of funny. And there's this whole running joke where there's this one character, his name is I got it written down, Justice, and he has this like over the top, really silly Australian accent. But there's this whole running joke where he'll like try to read stuff, and he just like can't read, but he's gotta hide it, and like everyone knows he's a simpleton and he can't read, but they just kind of look like, they give this like look like we know, but it's like, okay, we'll let him try to read this, like whatever makes him happy. I thought that was a funny running joke. Um, so like that guy that I talked about, the Baron, he's basically one of the uh, one of one of Count Dracula's top dogs, and he's supposed to be this like evil henchman, but he has this like crush on this one girl in Manborg's crew named Mina, and he's just like he's so like soft and lovey-dovey, and he's like, oh, like he's just like always thinking about her and talking about her, and he's like bringing her flowers, and he'll be like flirting with her, and he'll just like totally f up, and he'll be like, oh, that was so dumb, I don't know why I said that, I just blew it, like he's like, you know, it's like the juxtaposition, he's like this hardcore evil henchman, but then he's a complete softie. I liked that element of his character. That was funny. Like I said, the voices were funny. Justice had this over the top, silly Australian accent for no reason. There's this guy called Number One Man, and his voice is dubbed over with this like crazy hero voice, maybe like some older video game style hero voice. That's really funny. And then there's this one instance where Manborg tries to give his creator, either it was like a fist bump or a handshake, I don't recall exactly, but he just like keeps messing up. I thought that was really funny. So yeah, the comedy in this was on point. Those are my standouts, but there's a bunch of other funny stuff. This movie was hilarious. So I mean, it had so many elements going on, so many different ingredients, and it just worked together perfect. You had the crazy sci-fi, you had the crazy look of it, you had the horror elements, you had a little bit of good cheese going on, you had good comedy. Like it was just a perfect blend. It was like they just threw 50,000 ingredients in a blender that you wouldn't necessarily think would work together, but it just like became the most delicious smoothie you've ever tasted. So that's what I gotta say about that. Moving on. I can't speak English in these videos. Moving on to another point here. I think this movie has some really good creature effects. Like I said, some of it's hit or miss. Like the Baron, he's just clearly wearing a mask, but I still think he looks cool. There's like great practical effects, like Count Dracula looks really cool early on, and then later he looks like way different, but he looks cool too. And then there's like some CGI creature effects. There's this giant monster that well, actually, just I was about to say the leads fight, but just Manborg fights him, and he's like this giant, huge hulking brute, and he's got like this like skeleton face, and he like, I don't know, he looks like a video game final boss, and he's absolutely awesome. So yeah, cool creature effects with, you know, the CGI with the practical effects, good blend of both. I thought the backdrops were really cool. The whole movie, it feels like a video game. Like with the like I said, like a lot of the characters' voices seem like something you would hear in like a older video game. You know, a lot of well, not a lot, like all the backdrops are digital, of course, because it's, you know, all the backdrops are pretty much green screen. So like the fact that it's all these digital green screen backgrounds, it makes it feel like a video game. The like absurdity of everything going on kind of makes it feel like a video game. Like it's like you're watching a feature length video game. I don't know if an hour and 3 minutes is technically feature length, but I don't know. I thought it had a really cool aesthetic, really unique look, and it was almost like had a little bit of a grimy look, like maybe like an intentional griminess, almost like it was like a little bit like not necessarily cloudy, but almost like grainy. Like it looked like an older video game. Like it wasn't super polished. Like they could have made it super polished, but it's like they intentionally made it a little bit grainy to have that kind of video game feel. I know it's not supposed to have the video game feel, or maybe it is, but I don't know. But yeah, it had the video game feel. It had that like futuristic cyberpunk Batman Beyond feel, and it was a beautiful film, beautiful look. And I think it was cool that it was filmed all on green screen and entirely in a garage, but at the same time, it doesn't feel flat. Like initially, when I saw the trailer, I'm like, is this just gonna seem like really really flat and like very linear and just like, okay, there's a camera and it's just pointing forward and there's people in front of a background, like is it just going to feel like that the whole time? But it doesn't really feel like that. Like there's a lot of movement, like the editing is really good, but they're like riding like these like futuristic bikes. They're like walking through corridors. There's this giant um, there's this giant like arena. It's like almost like a gladiator style arena, and like a lot of the best action scenes in the movie take place there, where the leads have to fight these different enemies, and like they're supposed to be killed. Like the vampires are just like giving them that the last chance at freedom. So like they can like fight for their freedom, but they go up against these like they're way outmatched, but for some reason like they always are able to win. But yeah, it's like that whole like gladiator style arena was really cool. So yeah, I really liked um, the fact that it was filmed, almost entirely on green screen backdrops, but it doesn't feel like tight or like it's like lacking space or flat. Like it feels like a normal movie. It feels like there's like a lot of breathing room and space, if that makes sense. Like the characters are moving around. It even though it looks different than other movies, like the actual the way the characters move and interact with the world, it's pretty much like a normal movie. It doesn't feel like limited just because it's filmed on a green screen. Like there's still a lot of movement within the shots, a lot of movement with the characters. So yeah, like I just thought like that might be like a hindrance. Like okay, it's all on green screen. It might just, like I said, look like just a camera pointed at like you know a wall, but it's not like that. So that's pretty cool. Like I said, they're resourceful. Like they had very little, but they made the movie work, and I think the finished product is really good. So there you go. And yeah, the last I mean, I wrote my last point that I wrote is that I wanted to talk about the gladiator pit, but I kind of just mentioned that. I really thought that was cool. That was like all those scenes in the gladiator pit were probably my favorite in the movie. They were just like the best action scenes. They were intense, and it just seemed big scale. You had all these different vampires in the audience. Manborg was like turning his arm into a giant machine gun. He was turning his elbow into a rocket launcher. Like there was like dudes on motorcycles that they were like shooting up, and that giant boss that I'm talking about, like the giant brute, like with the skeleton type face. Like yeah, all the stuff in the gladiator arena I really really liked. So yeah, this movie was action packed, had a cool sci-fi feel, futuristic feel, great horror elements, great comedy, and like cheesy in a good way. This movie was the bomb. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this. It's free on Tubi. It's only an hour and 3 minutes. So if you're a fan of kind of crazy sci-fi horror B movies with some comedy sprinkled in, I think this would be right up your alley. Super unique, and it's cool to see what you can do with like a little bit of money and some hard work. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this. It's thebomb.com. So that's been my recommendation, and that's been my review. Thank you all very much for watching, and peace out.